floorboards above my head creaked in that particular way they'd been creaking for 43 years. I'd lived in this house longer than my son had been alive, and I knew every groan and whisper it made. But that Sunday afternoon, lying on the den sofa with a book I wasn't really reading, those familiar sounds carried voices I wish I'd never heard. "Check the dresser again," my daughter-in-law Miranda's voice filtered through the heating vent. Sharp, urgent. "The property deeds have to be somewhere in here." My son David's response made my chest tighten. "Mom's probably got them in a safety deposit box or something. We'll find them when she dies. Then all of this is ours." "When?" Miranda laughed, cold and brittle. "At this rate, we'll be collecting Social Security ourselves. Maybe we should help things along, stop refilling her blood pressure medication or something." I stopped breathing. "Jesus, Miranda," but David's tone held more amusement than horror. "Let's not get crazy. She's 74. Nature will handle it soon enough." I lay there paralyzed as they rummaged through my bedroom. The room I'd shared with my late wife Elena for 37 years. The room where I'd comforted David through nightmares as a boy. The room where Elena had died in my arms just 18 months ago. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 3 times. I'd bought that clock the week David was born. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Patrick Morrison. We'd gone to high school together, both of us now grey and weathered, but sharp where it counted. "Patrick, I need to change my will, today if possible." "Arthur, what's wrong? You sound. Can you come to the house? I don't want to discuss this over the phone." He arrived within the hour, his usual warmth replaced with professional concern. I told him everything I'd overheard. His face darkened. "Arthur, I'm so sorry. What do you want to do?" I'd been up all night thinking about exactly that. About the son I'd raised alone after Elena's cancer diagnosis, working 2 jobs to keep him in good schools. About teaching him to throw a baseball, to change a tire, to treat people with dignity. Somewhere along the way, I'd failed at that last one. "I want to set up a trust," I said slowly, "for St. Catherine's Children's Home, the whole estate, the house, the investments, everything except my personal effects. When I die, it all goes to the kids there." Patrick's pen paused over his legal pad. "Everything, Arthur, that's nearly 2 million in assets, your son." "My son just told his wife he's waiting for me to die so he can have my house." My voice cracked despite my best effort. "He agreed when she joked about tampering with my medication. What kind of man did I raise, Patrick?" We spent 3 hours going over details. The irrevocable trust would take effect upon my death. The children's home would get funding for education, therapy, and housing. Kids agging out of foster care would have college scholarships in Elena's name. It was what she would have wanted anyway. She'd always had a soft spot for forgotten children. "What about David?" Patrick asked gently. "Nothing at all." I thought for a long moment. He can have my tools from the garage, his grandfather's watch, the photo albums, the things that should matter more than property values. Patrick left me with documents to review. That evening, David and Miranda came for their usual Sunday dinner, acting as if they hadn't spent the previous afternoon plotting in my bedroom. "You okay, Dad?" David asked, heaping pot roast onto his plate. "You seem quiet." I looked at my son, his father's eyes, his mother's smile, and a stranger's heart. "Just tired, son, just tired." Miranda touched his arm. "You really should take better care of yourself, Arthur. At your age, you need to watch your health." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I excused myself early, claiming exhaustion. From the kitchen, I heard Miranda whisper, "See, he's going downhill, won't be long now." Over the next month, I watched them with new eyes. Miranda volunteered to organize my financial documents. David suggested I make him a co-signer on my bank accounts, just in case something happens. They brought over casseroles and concerns, playing the devoted family while measuring my house for their future renovations. I signed the trust documents on a Tuesday morning, with Patrick and 2 witnesses present. It felt like signing away more than assets. It felt like acknowledging that my only child had died long before I would. But I wasn't done. I spent my days at St. Catherine's, getting to know the children who would benefit from Alina's and my life's work. There was Maya, 15, who wanted to be a veterinarian but had aged through 6 foster homes. Marcus, 12, whose parents had died in a car crash, leaving him with no family and a stutter that made other kids cruel. Little Sophie, 8, with burn scars on her arms and the brightest smile I'd ever seen. These kids had nothing. They'd been dealt hands that would make grown men weep. Yet they showed up every day, did their homework, dreamed their dreams, and treated each other, and me, with more kindness than my own son had shown in months. I started taking Maya to the animal shelter to volunteer, helped Marcus practice his speech therapy exercises, read bedtime stories to Sophie and the younger kids. They didn't see a dying wallet with legs. They saw Grandpa Arthur, and they loved me for who I was, not what I owned. 3 months after I'd signed the trust, David let himself into my house unannounced. I was in the kitchen making sandwiches for a St. Catherine's picnic. "Dad, we need to talk about your finances." "Do we?" "Miranda and I have been thinking, this house is way too big for you. You should sell it, move into a nice assisted living facility. We could handle the sale for you, take that burden off your shoulders." I kept spreading mustard, steady and calm. "And where would the money from the sale go?" "Well, into a managed account. We'd make sure you had everything you needed." "I bet you would." David frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I set down the knife and turned to face my son. Really looked at him. When had he become this person, or had he always been there underneath, and I'd been too loving to see it? "It means I heard you, David, that Sunday in September. You and Miranda in my bedroom talking about finding the deeds, about how all this would be yours when I died, about me dying sooner rather than later." The color drained from his face. "Dad, that wasn't, you misunderstood." Did I misunderstand when Miranda suggested tampering with my medication? She was joking. "God, Dad, you can't think we'd actually." "I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know who you are." We stood in the kitchen, where Alina had taught him to bake cookies, where we'd celebrated every birthday and achievement, where I'd held him the night his mother died. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "If this is about the inheritance," David started. "It's not about the money. It's about my son wishing I was dead so he could have my house." "I never said I wished you were dead. You said nature would handle it soon enough, close enough." David's face hardened. "So what, you're cutting me out, is that it?" "I've made arrangements that I believe honor what your mother and I built together. When I'm gone, you'll receive what's meant for you." "This is bullshit," David's voice rose. "I'm your son, that house is my inheritance, you can't just." "I can do whatever I want with my own property, David. That's what ownership means." He stormed out. Miranda called an hour later, screaming about ingratitude and manipulation and legal action. I hung up on her mid-sentence. The silence that followed was the loneliest I'd felt since Alina died. But then Maya stopped by after school to show me her acceptance letter to the community college's veterinary technician program. Marcus performed in the school play without stuttering once. Sophie drew me a picture of the two of us holding hands, with my Grandpa Arthur written in cragged letters at the top. I framed that picture. David didn't call, didn't visit. 6 months passed like a held breath. Then 1 year. I celebrated my 76th birthday surrounded by children from St. Catherine's, eating cake and playing games, more loved than I'd felt in years. I never told them about the trust. That wasn't why they cared about me. On the night of my 77th birthday, I added a codicil to my will, a letter to be read to David after my death, explaining not with anger, but with sorrow why I'd made my choice. Explaining that I'd hoped to raise a man who understood that love and family meant more than property values, that I'd failed him somehow, and I was sorry for that. But that the children at St. Catherine's had taught me what unconditional love looked like. They'd given a lonely old widow a purpose and joy in his final years, and that's worth more than any inheritance. I sealed the letter with my wedding ring pressed into the wax, the way Alina used to seal her letters to me when I was overseas. Then I went to read bedtime stories to kids who'd never known their grandparents, carrying the weight of my broken heart and the lightness of knowing I'd done something right in the end.